Can't believe it. Alonzo Payne has resigned. Wrote a letter to the governor and everything. Apparently prominent Democrats, prominent local Democrats in the Valley pushed Alonzo Payne out. He had an option. He could resign or he could go through a recall election, a wasteful recall. It's already election year. All you would have to do is just add his name to the ballot and do you want to recall him, yes or no? So that would have been an easy election to go through. So I can't believe it because how fucking stupid, how lazy. Why wouldn't you fight? Why wouldn't you fight? You know, it would suck to have to rerun for your own position 2 years into your first term. But God, if you would have won the recall, then you're in for, you know, what? Life for another 6 years? And then you get to choose your successor? So probably for another 10, 20 years? Why wouldn't he fight? Why wouldn't he fight? Why wouldn't he stand up for what he originally had stood up for? Why did he run to begin with? We would have given Alonzo Payne a learning curve. He just got in there 2 years ago. We would have given him a learning curve. Here's a report by KRDO News Channel 13 that just happened 13 days ago. Maybe it was because of this report. Let's find out.
Was already under a state investigation regarding his conduct with crime victims.
And now new concerns are emerging about another case dropped by San Luis Valley District Attorney Alonzo Payne. Investigative reporter Sean Rice is live in our newsroom with what he has learned about this latest case. Sean.
Yeah, but Mallory, Matthew Maka was shot outside a Dollar General in Saguache County in October of 2021. The alleged shooter, Joseph Taylor, was charged with attempted murder, but Maka says he was left in the dark by prosecutors, and that case was abruptly dismissed.
Do you think it's funny that I get shot and you guys are basically letting this guy walk for murder? Like, I couldn't die.
Matthew Maka was shot in October, but 8 months later in June, the criminal case against the alleged shooter was dismissed by the 12th Judicial District Attorney. Arrest documents say this man, Joseph Taylor, allegedly told Maka, quote, "I'm going to kill you." Police records say there was a brief struggle.
Motherfucker.
Taylor pointed a Glock 49 handgun at Maka and fired it at him.
I grabbed the gun and we were fighting for it, and I was headbutting him. And then he was able to let a round off, which hit me right here in the stomach.
These are the pictures of Maka's injuries after the shooting. Alonzo Payne filed a motion to dismiss all charges with claims that Maka's statements contradict physical evidence, adding that there was evidence the wound may be self-inflicted, but Maka says he was never asked about the struggle. The Saguache County judge reinstated the case after Maka wrote a letter pleading for the case to not be dismissed. In the letter, Maka says DA Payne failed to inform, consult, or treat him with respect, fairness, and dignity.
The DA is supposed to represent me and is supposed to be my attorney and looking for my best interest when he clearly is not doing anything. It's your job to get my side of the story and even the other person's side of the story. It's not my job.
Taylor and Maka will be back in court in July. Maka is now one of multiple people who have filed a state complaint alleging their victims' rights were violated by Alonzo Payne. Payne, who is now facing a recall in Alamosa, has not returned our multiple emails and phone calls. Reporting in the newsroom, Sean Rice, 13 Investigates.
Sean, thank you.
So, you know, that's a huge mistake by Alonzo Payne. That was a huge mistake by Alonzo Payne. Victims' rights. Victims' rights is actually part of Colorado's Constitution. And there's like 29 victims' rights. It's not just treat them with, you know, respect and dignity. Treat them with fairness, respect and dignity. Fairness. That's in the law. So, you know, that Veronica Medina might want to read Colorado law. Fairness is in the law. I mean, if it's not fair, that's not fair. That's bullshit. That's not fair, right? If shit's not fair, that's not fair. But victims' rights is basically respect the victim, let the victim know, you know, about what's going on, keep the victim in the know, let them know about the resources that they got at their disposal. Victims have a right to the incident report. Victims have a right to the incident recording. Victims have a right to be a part of every step of the entire criminal justice system, the entire process, the entire criminal procedure. The criminal probably needs love, but we need to love the victims first. I think victims' rights is revolutionary. You have all these, for the criminally accused, you have all these protections, these constitutional protections for the criminally accused. But you should have constitutional protections for the victims first. That's the whole point for the entire goddamn justice system. If you're not protecting the victims, then you're protecting the criminals. And there's also the right to restorative justice, the right to be informed about restorative justice practices in the San Luis Valley. Frankly, if justice isn't restorative, then what the hell is it? If justice doesn't restore, that's the point of justice. If it's not restorative, if it's not to restore the relationship, then it's destructive. How the fuck is destructive justice justice at all? It is not. As Thomas Hobbes said, you got to aim for justice. You got to aim for justice, not revenge. Justice is the end goal. And so Alonzo Payne is pretty... Really, all you need is the objective truth, and you need to pursue justice. You're not on one side or the other. You're not on your friends or families or the cop side. You're on the truth side. You're on the side of justice. Because if the legal system isn't a justice system, then people will have to go elsewhere in order to get some justice or live in oppressive conditions. So Hobbes says that judges and courts should aim for justice, not revenge. And also, when you hand down punishments, you look not to the bad done, nor to the bad for that punishment, but you look, you fixate your gaze, you fixate your eyes to the good in the future that's going to come from your so-called sentence. So if you think of it like that, it's like, yeah, justice is eye for an eye, so you got to pay for it. But let's look to the good of the future, like that Rohill. He couldn't serve 110 years, but now he has to serve 10 years. He's got to serve 10 years. And then after he serves his 10 years, now let's look at the 50 more years of good that Rohill will be able to do. There's a movie called The Queen. I swear these motherfuckers, Alonzo Payne apparently sucked at law, sucked at morality, and sucked at politics. He sucked at all, three. He could have stood up there. He could have, fought in a recall election. Why wouldn't he just let it go to the election? Nobody knows how that election, either he would have been recalled or not, yes or no. And we don't even have a DA, apparently the Attorney General is going to come in, so we don't even have a replacement. So we're going to have a DA election anyways. So it's incredible that Alonzo Payne just fucking gave up. He just quit. And then for the Democrats that pushed him out, what a bunch of beta motherfuckers. What a bunch of beta motherfuckers. So in The Queen, it's a movie. And it's about the Queen. It's about Princess Diana. Princess Diana is going to have an accident. Here's Alonzo Payne on his own channel. It looks like 2 years ago, 163 views. We'll hear what he had to say 2 years ago. This is the idealistic Alonzo Payne. And frankly, I think maybe bail reform is misguided and jail reform is what we need. I mean, you could, for the terrible people, you need a tough jail. But for good people, a tough jail's just going to turn that little fucking bunny rabbit into, So Alonzo Payne, we'll listen to this here in a second. But the Queen, okay, what happened in the Queen? Tony Blair and the Queen, Princess Diana just died, right? So in Britain, Princess Diana is getting chased by the paparazzi. There's a car crash. She dies. Okay? Terrible fucking tragedy in the 90s, right? So Tony Blair calls Princess Diana the people's princess. She's the people's princess. But the Queen didn't seem to give a shit at all. She didn't seem to show enough love and support. And the people of Britain were pissed off. The princess, you hated you hated Princess Diana, the Queen. The public knew about their hatred of Princess Diana. And now she's dead. And you still can't show any goddamn respect. So basically it was hatred all the way from the beginning to the fucking end. You hated to begin with, and even in death you were hating. Tony Blair at the very, Tony Blair was persistent. Tony Blair he cared about his country. So therefore, he cared about the Queen. He cared about the country. Every week, This was the job of the Prime Minister, to advise the Queen. He calls the Queen and he offers a list of 10 things that the Queen should do in order to win the British public back over. At first, she ignored Tony Blair, but then it got worse and worse and worse, and then she was like, God, I have never been hated this fucking much. I have never been hated this much. So then Tony Blair picks up the phone and says, I got a list of 10 things I think you should do that'll win the public over. And she says, go ahead. And he goes, number 1, number 2, number 3. And then she does all these sort of, nice gestures to say that she did care about Princess Diana and she does love the people. And so once she realized he was right, politically, the Queen corrected herself. Tony Blair cared about the country enough to tell the Queen what the fuck was up. He cared, he was thinking what was in the best of the UK's and the Queen's both, and his probably best interest. Here's a list of 10 things you could do to make up for the public about your lack of care about Princess Diana. Alonzo Payne could have done that. He could have offered to the public 10 changes his office was going to do. How about introducing a common law for everybody? Here's 10 rules. Anybody breaks these 10 rules for the most worst crimes, then fuck you. A nice simplified procedure, common law, gets everybody on the same page. Everybody knows the 10 most important laws. Alonzo Payne, every DA should do this. But when you look at Colorado law, it goes on and on and on. 45,000 pages of laws. So, insanity. Let's listen to some Alonzo Payne. What was Alonzo Payne saying 2 years ago?
Democratic Assembly delegates. My name is Alonzo Payne, and I'm seeking the nomination to be your next elected district attorney here in the San Luis Valley. Thank you for taking time to look at these videos and to consider me as your candidate for the Democrat Party here in the San Luis Valley. I'm a native of the San Luis Valley, born and raised, 6th generation in San Luis. Been practicing law since 2006 in the San Luis Valley. And my heart and my life is here in the San Luis Valley. I'm not some carpetbagger from the Front Range whose only bureaucratic interest is to talk to his buddies up in Aspen and up in Steamboat Springs about how many people he's been incarcerating. What we need to do is we have to have an approach that doesn't criminalize poverty. We need to have an approach that addresses the opioid issues, the methamphetamine issues, and puts these individuals back into our society so they can be working, productive members, not locked up in our jails so that we can pay for them. What we need to do is ensure that anybody that is convicted of crimes, that they're sent to Department of Corrections and not some posh private prison here and serving their time with very little consequences. What we need to do is ensure that we treat the people of the San Luis Valley fairly. I will do that as your next district attorney. I hope that I can garner your support. I know most of you, and if I've not met you, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm a native of the San Luis Valley. I don't necessarily come with the privileges that those that from the Front Range have, and I understand the issues that our community faces on a day-to-day basis because I grew up here, my family lives here, and I have every intention of staying here in the San Luis Valley. So if you can take some time, if you can look at what my platform is to reduce the criminalization of poverty, to fight for criminal justice reform, and to ensure that we have a justice system that is fair for everybody that is involved. Choose me as your candidate for the Democrats here in the San Luis Valley. I will be fair to everybody, and the amount of money in your bank account is going to be irrelevant when we're prosecuting for crimes. We want to ensure that we have a safe, a healthy, and a happy San Luis Valley that is run and led by those who live here in the San Luis Valley. Please take a moment, ask me any questions that you may have. Reach out to me personally, alonzopayne@gmail.com, 720-323-0768. Be happy to answer your questions and talk about how we can make this a better, safer place for all of those in the San Luis Valley, especially those that have been here forever. Let's keep this place safe. Let's keep it happy. And let's ensure that bureaucrats from the Front Range can't come down and tell us how to do what we know is best for our community. They haven't been able to do it so far. I don't know what's going to change. However, if you have somebody that's local that you can reach out to that actually has roots here in the San Luis Valley, things will change. Things will change. Thank you for your time. I appreciate everything that each and every one of you is doing, especially during this difficult time of pandemic. Thank you for being a delegate. It is important. It is important that we continue with our free, fair elections, and let's make the San Luis Valley the shining light for the rest of Colorado and the nation to follow. We don't want to have rates of incarceration that are comparable to Russia, Iran, and Mississippi. Let's make the San Luis Valley a fair place again. Let's make the San Luis Valley run by people from the San Luis Valley. Thank you for your time. And again, I am seeking your support to